Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discourse episode 10.5. We're not on 11 quite yet because it was suggested to me during my Twitch streams that we have a discussion about Spider Man No Way Home, the big movie which everyone's been talking about, the third chapter in the Homecoming trilogy. I guess the last chapter in the Homecoming trilogy before Spider Man makes his transition to the college years, I would say at this point. I already talked about it on my channel. I went into the things that I love about the movie, what I disliked about it. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. It did such a great job in terms of the characters. I thought it was a great emotional arc for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and love that they did with his version of Mary Jane, of course, and also Ned Leeds. Loved how they managed to balance a huge cast of characters of all these various villains, from Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin to Jamie Foxx's Electro, and redeeming a number of characters in my eyes, or at least doing better things with them. And, aside from a couple criticisms that I personally have, where I think maybe like 10% of the fan service is a little forced, maybe doesn't work. 90% of it does work for me. And there's a few plot conveniences and maybe a plot hole or two, but overall, it was a really emotional movie for me. And I got at least watery-eyed about 2 or 3 times in the film. I feel like there's definitely at least 3 times people are definitely gonna get watery-eyed, where yes, this is very much a love letter, I think, to Spider-Man and this iteration of the character. And it really, but despite all that in its history, I still think what it really does focus on so well is having those emotional beats and having them being very earnest and authentic. And it wasn't even the stuff that they may have been referencing with, villains and how they've been brought back. But seriously, like just the main cast and the chemistry that Tom Holland has with Marissa Tomei's Aunt May, or his chemistry with Zendaya's Mary Jane Watson, or his Ned Leeds, played by Jacob Batalon. Really, really loved the movie for that. I thought it accomplished that while also just being a really fun superhero Spider-Man film. But you kind of already know my general thoughts in the movie. You can check out my stream where I go into more specific detail. But what I'm sure you guys want to know is what everyone else's thoughts are on Discourse. So we'll just go ahead and we'll start at the top, start with Deadpool, and we'll go down the line. Just, your general thoughts on the movie. Of course, it's a non-spoiler discussion, but what did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was probably one of the better Marvel movies, and definitely probably the best of the Spider-Man MCU movies.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of apprehensive going into it originally because we already got into the Spider-Verse. So I already got a movie that multiverse Spider-Man. So I'm like, do we really need this? Couldn't we do more to explore some of the other arcs of Peter Parker or try something else? But it was actually pretty cool seeing all the different characters interacting.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be careful how much I say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I'm glad that it all seemed to work for the most part.
Right.
I mean, of course, when you're dealing with multiverse stuff and magic and all that stuff together, you're going to get some stuff that may not work 100%. But I thought for the most part it worked really well. I thought the villains were really good. I thought all the different characters they had, including some of the cameos, were really good. For the most part, I felt like, yeah, like you, like it. There's a couple times where it really brings a tear to your eye, just how emotional it gets. And there was a couple things I really got caught off guard. It was not predictable at all. Even though at this point Marvel movies can become some of them are kind of almost like paint by the numbers at this point.
Formulaic.
Yeah, but this one definitely wasn't. It played around with a lot of different ideas, and it didn't. It definitely would surprise you. It definitely exceeded expectations in many ways.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it exceeded my initial expectations. Like you, I was initially concerned, and again, I went into more detail on my regular review on my Twitch channel, where it's like, okay, you're dealing with a lot of different pieces here. How much of this is just going to be fan service, and are you gonna be able to balance the fan service with the characterization and the story itself? And And are you just going to have just be little an Easter egg hunt? Which I think anytime you do that in the movie too much, it gets tiresome and just doesn't come off very authentic in my opinion. But they did the impossible. They did, I clearly John Watts. I'm kind of glad John Watts is getting a lot of love right now because I feel like he's been. I mean, I think we can make an argument. This is the best. I think you can absolutely make an argument right now. Is this the best superhero trilogy of all time? Is it up there? Yeah, I think so. I mean, usually when you think of a superhero trilogy, it's like, well, one of them is just kind of weak. For me, it might be the best one. That might be a conversation for another time. I've been very impressed. I'm glad he's got a lot of love right now. But yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. I was initially concerned with them playing with all these pieces, but it was a great balance. It was a great balance. Emily, did you happen to see the movie recently? We're doing a non-spoiler discussion right now before we talk about Nut Before Christmas.
For Spider-Man?
Yes.
No, but I know the script leaks.
Okay. All right. I don't want to talk about the script leaks for those who haven't seen it. But
I won't say anything then.
Thank you.
Move along.
I appreciate that. Austin, what about yourself, sir? You saw the movie. Your general thoughts on the film?
Okay, so for me, I can remember where I was when I first saw that Civil War trailer where Iron Man says Underoos, and you see Spider-Man, he has the eyes, and I think that was and I never thought that would happen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Sure.
Just because of the whole legal thing with Sony, and then we got the Far From Home, Homecoming, and they were some very good Marvel movies. They kind of actually they were smaller stakes. They were they had good villains for once. They kind of started the trend of good villains in a Marvel movie, and it also, I think, introduced a lot of people to Tom Holland and Zendaya, but I guess she was a Disney Channel star. So, and Jacob Batalon, is that
Batalon? I think that's how you say his name.
Okay, but I think when Far From Home came out, it kind of seemed like, well, the third one was going to be them doing Kraven's Last Hunt, which makes a lot of sense. Spider-Man, everyone knows who his identity is now public after the last one, and now someone is coming to hunt him, and Spider-Man has to escape from this guy, from like Kraven the Hunter or Scorpion, who they set up in the first movie.
True.
And then kind of there was a lot of, I remember, shakings. It's like, well, they're just going to do this one Spider-Man movie, and then she's going to be in one more Marvel movie, and there was like a lot of uncertainty. Is this going to be the last Tom Holland Spider-Man? Is this going to be a thing? It's like, well, what's going to happen? And then as also time kind of went on, we're like, okay, so we know this person's. It felt like for a while it was just like, this person's going to be in the movie, and this person's going to be in the movie, and it's like, okay, is everyone in this freaking? It's like and that's a problem I think with the Spider-Man movies, with the Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2. They have too many goddamn characters.
Yes.
And so based on kind of promotions and stuff, it seemed like they were kind of trying to adapt the most like reviled Spider-Man story of Spider-Man. What's it called? Damn, now I had the name in my head.
I think it's Brand New Day or One More Day. I think those are
One More Day. One More Day, which is pretty much the most, next to the Clone Saga, probably the most hated Spider-Man story.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was like, I think pretty nervous for this movie because, like you, Chris, I love the Tom Holland Spider-Mans. I thought both of them were good, and I think what quelled that first nervousness was seeing the first trailer and seeing the Willem Dafoe bomb and just seeing Alfred Molina again and being like, okay, I think I think I'm getting this. I think actually seeing, and after watching the movie, I get that feeling when I first saw Spider-Man in that Civil War trailer. It's just like they did it. They made a good third Spider-Man movie. I never thought we would get that.
It's the first time. It's the first time it's happened.
It's the first time. I know, it's crazy, and it's just like I'm gonna be choice. I'm gonna try to be as vague as possible, but I think what makes this movie really good is the fact that the main three of Zendaya, Tom Holland, and Jacob all, I think, have grown up and really stepped up their game as an acting, and you can really see it in this movie. And in the last movie, we're kind of we were far from New York, and this one we're kind of at home, and we got to
Mhm.
see, the relationships between these characters, and we get to see relationships with new characters, and
Yeah.
kind of I know thinking about it today, it's like, Spider-Man's like the first kid to, or I mean, he's like Tom Holland's 25, but he was like the first kid to be a superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Very
And-
much so. Yeah.
And I think this movie is going to be like, and now with like Kate Bishop and
Mhm,
other
mhm.
kids, we're going to start, it's interesting to see where Spider-Man kind of was the stepping stone in a lot of ways. It's going to be interesting to see what both what John Watts does with Fantastic Four and with
Yeah.
their implications, and the future of Spider-Man, and hopefully there is more Spider-Man movies, because I think this one is really good. I really think this is a good, capstone to they like nailed the landing. That's basically what they, like a lot of third Godfather 3, Return. I mean, I like Return. Trying to think
I
of
like
really
Return of the
bad-
Jedi, but yeah, a lot of the times in big trilogies, the third film is kind of like the weakest. That's kind of like,
Mhm,
oh, of course it
mhm.
is.
But this
You
one,
know.
they did it, and
Yeah.
they hit it out of the park.
I think
That's really it.
No, I'm right there with you, man. It's and I'm glad you brought up the three main leads, which
Mhm.
is Spider-Man, of course, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and MJ and Ned. I will say, like, one of their moments together is one of the moments where I cried during the movie.
Mhm.
And it made me realize, like, yeah, the chemistry between those three actors is so good, that it's like, wow, I didn't realize how much their relationship, that trifecta, really meant to me. And to
Mhm.
see that, really focused on in such a great way. I mean, it's really their movie. It's the three of them.
Mhm.
Yes, you have all these other characters coming in from all these different universes and things, but it really is their movie. I think they're the emotional core of it. That, and along with Aunt May, I would say. But so I agree with you, and yeah, I thought it both nails the land and it acts as a nice closing chapter to this trilogy. But
Mhm.
it's a huge springboard for the next trilogy that they're going to do, which is, as far as I know, is that confirmed, or they already said that? I mean, I thought Kevin Feige came out and said we are doing another MCU Spider-Man trilogy. And they haven't said specifically what it's going to be. I'm assuming that it's going to be the college years, because I think that makes sense. But we'll find out.
I think
We'll
they
find
said
out.
they're doing 4 today. They're working on 4.
Okay.
At least.
Okay, that's good.
Also, I must say, Willem Dafoe, chef's kiss.
Oh my God! Yeah.
The man is like eating a pink steak in this movie.
He's chewing.
He's chewing.
Chewing the scenery. I mean, I'm so glad. And we can see him chewing that scenery without that mask on. Another really, whoever made the decision to, like, let's take, look, I'll say the OG, he's wearing the OG Goblin outfit for a little bit, but, and it looks better than ever in this, because it's probably CGI for the most part. But I love how they just had him just do whatever he kind of wanted in this film and be the cackling goblin that we remember, but we get to see his face throughout it. Peter. I love all that shit with him. And he's the main villain of the film. I mean, it's him, and then you have the other villains, of course, but he is the main one based on what he does, the things he does in the movie.
And also, even to that, his faces, just I might top Speed 2 in terms of just crazy Dafoe faces you get in this movie.
He's got a shit ton. It's a smorgasbord of Dafoe faces.
I was gonna say, he looks great for 60s. I don't know if they use
CGI on him and Alfred Molina, but Dafoe has always been. I don't mean to insult the guy, but he's always had that weird fucking face. Where it's like it's very distinct, it's very unique, and he's always kind of looked the same. Like, yeah, I mean, I look at him in the original Spider-Man films, like, oh yeah, he's aged, but he hasn't like aged badly or anything like that. He's just kind of always stayed consistently the same, which is just weird. He's like an immortal. He's got like that disease where it's like you will always look the same forever, but you'll always look like you're about 50 years old. He's kind of like one of those guys. But yeah, man. Yeah, he's got the Abe Vigoda disease. Exactly. But yeah, no, he kills it. He knocks out of the park. I'm like, I think they use all the villains well. I mean, some villains are used, to a greater capacity than others. Like you think the main three they're Goblin, obviously, and then the second most important two, I would say, are Doc Ock and then Electro, and then the bench warmers. But they warm that bench well. Is Sandman, Lizard. And they have some fun stuff with them. So, but yeah,
They play a good
I agree with you.
outfield.
They do. They play a hell of a good outfield. Yeah, and one of my favorite jokes in the movie involves the Lizard, which I thought was very funny. I don't want to say it because it's a spoiler. I want you guys to experience that on your own. But no, totally agree with you, man. No, very, very nice way to bring up also the history of that and how it all culminated in this. That was very cool. Thunderly, what about yourself, good sir? Your general thoughts on the film?
Well, leading up to this film, I was very excited to see not just Tom Holland, because come on, Tom Holland's gonna do great, and Zendaya, and I hope I said her name right, and everybody else. I was more excited about the villains going into this, because you're taking villains from the last two Spider-Mans, right? And
20 years. Yeah. 20
Yeah.
years worth of villains.
And so I want to see how much they could add to their character, and how, I don't know if I wanted to see if they could change them up a bit. And I was surprised with Electro, Jamie Foxx, he was the surprise, but the real. I was so enamored by William Dafoe's freaking return to Green Goblin in this film, because it's he was the first Spider-Man villain that we saw in live action, and he killed that role 20 years ago. So him coming back now, and then him in interview saying, "Hey, I just want to do my own stunts." I told them I want to do my own stunts and stuff. And you could see the stuff that he did in this movie. Is that dude is amazing. That dude literally went in there, said, "I want this," and basically brought whatever he had, whatever he had for 20 years.
He was still on.
Yeah.
He could still do it. It's like a day hadn't passed. He may have gotten older, but in terms of playing the character, he was like, "Oh, you're doing exactly the same, if not better."
Yeah, and you could tell he missed playing Green Goblin, because that was a hell of a freaking a hell of a job he did. Yeah. Now when it comes to the story, I absolutely loved it. I'm not gonna go into any spoilers about that, because I think the biggest parts of the film is the spoilers, and I'm not gonna go into it. But as you said, you had 2 or 3 moments that made you teary-eyed. I had the same amount of moments teary-eyed, and then I cried all the way in the end. So that basically, the movie to me is the Spider-Man film I've always wanted to see in my life. And did it take too long for them to make this type of film? Maybe. But it's the film that everybody deserved to get. So, yeah.
I think it satisfies a lot of fans. It satisfies the people who already, like myself, who really love this, who loves this version of Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man. I've loved this. I know some people are been critical of this take where he's so ingrained in the MCU, but I think that's what makes it interesting. And you have those segment of fans that clearly are like, he's not Spider-Man enough. He's not miserable. He needs to be a sad sack. And I was like, well, I think this movie will also give those fans what they want. It's a nice amalgamation. It's a nice balance of both.
Yeah.
I think people will walk out satisfied on either camp, which is nice.
And not only that, when it comes to the overarching story of the multiverse now, that started with Loki, I think the future is bright for that storyline to evolve to something even bigger than that. So
yeah, it will.
Definitely. I am excited for the future of the Spider-Man movies. I'm excited for the future of the MCU films. I am excited for that multiverse storyline to evolve even more. And I will say this right now. Defoe's Green Goblin is better than most villains in the MCU, and that's just one film. So
No, I think he's great. He's definitely one of my favorite villains in the MCU as well. So he did a great job. You know, believe me, once this movie's been out for a little while, I will be quoting some of his lines in my streams, as you guys know I tend to do. So no, very nice, very nice. Nick Casper, you said you didn't see the movie yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to it though, because I grew up on the Raimi films, or the first two. I really liked anyway.
Nice. Cool. No, when you do see it, then I'll be happy. You might have gone out there with your mic. So sorry if I talked over you. But yeah, no. Once you have seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film. Definitely. But I'm sure this will be a topic of conversation we'll come back to eventually. But Xavier, I know you saw the movie. What are your general thoughts on the film?
Yeah, so I did enjoy it. This was the first Marvel movie I saw this year, which is surprising because I usually see them I usually try to see all of them, even the lesser ones like Ant-Man or whatever else. But yeah, I did enjoy this movie. I think for me, what stood out the most were like everyone's been saying, the MJ, Peter, and Ned. I think this was the first one that really made me think they all three of those actors just brought their A game because they're like we've been saying, like they're older than the characters that they're playing, but yet they still feel like the age of those characters.
Yes.
And especially with Zendaya, I mean, because Tom Holland, I haven't seen any other movies that he's done. I know no, everyone talks about that Netflix film.
He's
that's
good
really good. But with Zendaya, I watched her in that again, but then the Netflix movie she did, and again, she's playing in an older person there, and then to play a younger person here is impressive. And so, yeah, they did a really good job, and those were probably the standouts to me. I mean, the more dramatic scenes, I probably just be repeating what everyone said. Got teary eyed in some moments. There were things that kind of surprised me. I'm probably the only one here who was slightly impressed by the first post credit scene. But overall, yeah, the movie I thought was really good. I enjoyed it.
Nice. No, I loved it. Right there with you, man. Newsy Ducky, your general thoughts on the movie?
Well, I like the people and the buildings.
Here we go. What about the people in the buildings you love, Newsy Ducky? What specifically?
Well, I'm not sure if this is like a spoiler.
It's not. Okay. Yeah, it's not a spoiler.
I'm not sure. Well, I'll do this. I'll explain the most vague as possible. I actually like that one scene with Ned's grandmother.
Yes.
They were in her house, and I mean, because Ned or Jacob, his the actor,
Babylon,
he's Filipino like me. So when she started speaking my language, and I was the only one who understands, she sounded exactly like my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
The exact mannerism, the exact tone, and yeah, I just I lost it because I missed my grandmother. She passed away years ago, so yeah. And I just like the emotional manipulation from Marvel. So thanks, Marvel.
They're good at that.
My big, I think someone might have mentioned this when we were during one of your streams, but my big concern was that because they were transplanting these villains, that there wouldn't be that the emotions would be kind of like muddled. But it is never not Tom Holland's movie.
Right. I agree.
They never overshadow him. It is always about him and what he's going through.
That's what I think John Watts has done so well, is that because I think he's done a great job of all the villains across his trilogy, both with Vulture, Mysterio, and in the last two films, obviously. And then this most recent one, he has all these villains here, and they never once overshadow Tom Holland's Peter Parker. He still remains firmly the focus, despite and also the Doctor Strange element in the movie. He doesn't feel like, all right, well, now it's the Doctor Strange movie. It's like, no, it's still Peter Parker's story. It's still Spider-Man's story. And I'm like, that takes a lot of work. And that means just to know that, okay, we can't, because that's what always happens, I think, when you bring in maybe like an iconic villain to a hero, then it becomes that villain's movie. You know, I mean, you can see that with Tim Burton's Batman, where Joker has more screen time. Jack Nicholson has more screen time than like Michael Keaton. And so, despite having so many characters and a lot of focus being on them, it still doesn't take away from his story, which is great. So I thoroughly agree with you.
My other, I was worried that because they were getting into the multiverse now, that it was gonna be difficult to like make understandable, like what, but they make it very simple, like what they need to do.
Yeah. No, yeah, completely agree. Vanny, what about yourself, good sir? You haven't seen it yet, right?
No, I got tickets tomorrow morning, first showing, just to avoid spoilers. I've been keeping away from Twitter and Instagram and all the other stuff just to avoid anything. And
Gotcha.
I have my guesses for it. I think I got confirmed one of them just now, so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's things I'm generally kind of hoping for. The one thing I've been kind of curious about, and I haven't seen it yet in the MCU films since the Loki season finale, is are we going to start to see repercussions from it too? So I'm kind of going in just kind of curious to see, will we? And if so, how will we start making the impact and things like that?
There are repercussions. I'll say that with this multiverse things, it's upending a lot of different lives, and it's implied to be upending different people's lives into these future films, which we'll see. So I was like, and that's pretty cool. Obviously, you had the Infinity Stones were the big MacGuffin. They're the big focus in the previous era of Marvel. Those three, I guess, phases. Multiverse is clearly the focus now.
Yeah.
And now that you're seeing everything with What If and leading into Doctor Strange, and most recently with Spider-Man, and I imagine others. I wouldn't be surprised if Fantastic Four. I mean, it would make sense with Fantastic Four to also dabble in the multiverse, because they've done in the past many of their stories, and Doctor Doom especially. So yeah, that's clearly going to be the focus going forward, which is going to make it really fun. Yeah. But yes, there was our little Spider-Man No Way Home discussion. I'm gonna have to make a couple edits for this discussion. Take some things out. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. As you can obviously tell, we either people who haven't seen it are either very excited to see it, and those of us who have seen it, we were very impressed and we were big fans. But of course, want to hear your guys' opinion on the film as well. Even if you didn't like it, that's totally fine. I think I saw a couple people that were like, "It's okay." So I want to hear them. And I want you guys. I want them to go into specific detail. But I hope you enjoyed this Discourse 10.5.